Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyden, taking a look at tonight's MLB Slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. No weather concerns tonight for the first time in several years. We got a really good pitching slate here too as well.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. A lot of games, really big slates. Actually no weather outside of maybe some sprinkles in like the Yankees game, and that's about it. So you mentioned a lot of good pitchers. There's a lot of great tournament options today at the pitcher, especially in like the mid range. So that we'll get to, but it is a pretty solid slate. I think there's a lot of stacks that I like. I think that'll be lower owned, and it's going to be another night where I probably end up fading Coors.
Yeah, I think so. You look at this first game here, Atlanta and Washington. Steven Strasburg taking on Mike Foltynewicz. Both these pitchers definitely viable here. I think Strasburg is going to come in fairly low on just because there are so many other options. Like you have Sale. You have some cheaper guys. You obviously have DeGrom too. Like I think Strasburg might be overlooked here. And I will say I'm a bit surprised. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because it's Scherzer, but I was surprised at double-digit strikeouts last night.
Yeah, but I mean, it took him 9 innings to get there, so I mean that
True.
kind of helps.
Still very solid. He just threw a complete game, but whatever.
I mean, it only took him 9 innings to get 10 strikeouts. What a scrub. I mean, yeah, obviously, I don't think Strasburg has the kind of upside that Scherzer had. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to try to hunt strikeouts with this Braves team. There are a couple guys, Flaherty and Tucker that do strike out about a league average amount, but I mean, I think he's still a safe option. That being said, like I also think you can stack the Braves because if people do look at that game yesterday and be like, man, the Braves really sucked, I'm just going to hope that Strasburg does the same thing Scherzer does. You can probably gain a little bit of like hedging on the field because I don't think the Braves bats are going to be as cold as they were yesterday.
No, I don't think so. And you saw it was a rare multi-strikeout game for Freddie Freeman. You saw Markakis strike out. Like, these are typically guys that don't strike out a ton. And the fact that you're actually getting them kind of actually priced down today, I didn't feel like they were really priced down enough yesterday facing Scherzer, but today I do. Like, Freddie Freeman only 4,400 against Strasburg is an interesting GPP play. And I think still Tucker's the other guy. I'll probably be just looking at the two power bats more than anything.
Yeah, I don't mind hunting home runs there with those guys, and then you can obviously look at Ryan Flaherty, who, three at bats last game, didn't strike out at all, which was nice to see. But he continues just to put up numbers, solid numbers. Like he's not blowing you away with most of these performances, but he's getting on base, driving in some runs from time to time. So he's just a consistent bat towards the bottom of that lineup you can look at.
Yep. Washington side of things here, I'm not too high on them just at their price tags. I think if I'm choosing anyone, it's probably just going to be looking at Harper. Folty's a guy he's either on or he's off. He can be extremely dominant. He's cheap. Definitely have some interest here. Like still this Washington lineup. I mean, Zimmerman, a little bit unlucky to start the year. Like obviously Harper and Heaton are guys you have to watch out for, but like Kendrick, Michael Taylor, Pedro Severino, back half's not too bad here.
No, like I think Foltynewicz is in play here as a cheap tournament option. We've seen him come out and pitch a couple solid outings. One of them was against this Braves or this Nationals team last time out. He pitched five and a third inning, gave up 1 earned, walked a couple, 8 strikeouts. Fly balls to lefties, still a little bit concerned dating back to last season, 41.4%, 34.3% hard contact. So obviously that concerns you with a guy like Harper and even Eaton in that lineup. But that being said, this new windup, new pitching motion for Foltynewicz has really led to him being consistent with all of his pitches. So if he's going to be dominant and he's going to have control, I think he's a viable tournament option here.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind him. 15 strikeouts throughout the first 2 games. Definitely has that type of stuff. Good fastball as well. Whenever he misses it, lefties can't punish it. And right now, I mean, only 2 lefties projected in the lineup.
Yeah, and if he can just get around Eaton and Harper, which it's pretty easy to get around Harper if you really want to, you just walk him. You can guarantee you might be able to guarantee like 8 points for Harper tonight if he just walks 4 times.
We saw that with Taron. Taron didn't throw any pitch like close enough for Harper to even hit last night.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's sick, or he just didn't play him in his DFS lineups last night.
That's probably it. He got tired of hearing the BVP against him, so he's like, screw it. These guys are gonna be like, oh, Harper's gonna homer. I'm just gonna walk him.
He called up Derek Carty after the game. He's like, "What do I do, man? What do I do? I can't stop hearing about this stuff."
Well, the bat projects that you should walk him 4 times.
Oh man. Anyone else from this one?
No, it's just the lefties if you're really wanting to.
Yeah. Reds Phillies next here. Homer Bailey take on Aaron Nola. I have a little bit of interest here in Aaron Nola. I know you're a little bit skeptical just because, one, he hasn't pitched too great to start the year. Pitch count was obviously something to worry about in that first game where they pulled him after 68. Through 87, still didn't look great against the Mets. Mets and Braves, two opponents I'm probably not going to be picking a ton of pitchers on really to start the year so far. They've been pretty solid. But I don't mind him here, especially if Winker's out.
Yeah, I mean, look, he has upside, I think, against this team that has been striking out a decent amount to start the season. That being said, like, it still really concerns me what Gabe Kapler is doing with his pitchers in that bullpen. So you're taking a decent amount of risk on a guy like Nola. He's really cheap on DraftKings at 8,200. He's fairly cheap on FanDuel as well. He's 85 over there. He has some strikeout upside, but he also has some blow up potential, I think, in the spot. So if you want to roll him out, I think you can, but it's someone that I'm probably not looking at. I think there's better tournament options tonight.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I'm looking at the same price range, I definitely like Manaea here. Better for, a similar price tag. I do like Nola here just for an ownership play. I do think people off him. If he ends up becoming pretty popular within the industry, then it's kind of like, I'm not really getting a bargain on ownership well, so I'll be off of him. But like you said, I mean, there is obviously some concern just pitch count wise. If theirs end up, maybe 4 or 5 lefties in this lineup, I do have a little bit more concern. But there definitely are some strikeouts within this lineup, especially in the back half. Joey Votto got on base a couple times last night, a guy who can obviously crank out at any time. But guys like Billy Hamilton, Jose Peraza, Cliff Pennington in this lineup, like I think there's a lot of strikeouts and a lot of weak contact to be made too.
Yeah, that is a concern. But as you mentioned, if they load up lefties, which there's 5 projected in that lineup, if they load up lefties, that is it. I'm definitely going to be off them in this spot.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at Cincinnati, I still don't mind Votto here, who's basically their similar prices last night. Look at Nola, he wasn't awful against lefties, but pretty much league average. There's still some pop, still obviously a friendly ballpark for power. So I don't mind a one-off of Votto or even Winker again if he is in the lineup. It was just an illness.
Yeah, or even Scooter Gennett. He's someone else that you can look at. Scooter, dating back to last season, 5 for 12 with 1 homer and 5 RBIs against the Phillies. He just likes crushing the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, good night last night. I definitely don't mind Scooter either. And once again, super cheap.
Yeah, he really is. He'll probably be a popular option tonight, though.
Yep. Philly side of things with Homer Bailey. Homer Bailey's obviously, we saw tail two halves here last season. I mean, it was good at times, was good earlier on this year. I'm still attacking him like he's a horrible pitcher.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement there. He's the guy that I have a lot of interest in stacking against, and it's pretty much both sides of the plate. That being said, if you're wanting to get a one-off here, you have to at least consider Rhys Hoskins, who just continues to hit the ball very, very hard and very, very far and isn't striking out that much. He's a great even one-off from the spot. You mentioned Carlos Santana just continues to fly out to the warning track. Carlos Santana mashing the ball too. Average distance of 249 feet, almost 93 mile per hour average exit velocity. He's going to stop getting unlucky some point. He's going to hit the ball really hard and really far and probably hit a homer tonight. So I like Santana. I like Rhys Hoskins. I like Nick Williams, Odubel Herrera. Those are the guys that I'm primarily looking at here.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with all those names, and I'm gonna have to mute the Barrel Alert Twitter account tonight, so I don't have to see Carlos Santana flying up to the track. If Philly had a weird warm stretch to start the year, Santana would probably have 3 or 4 home runs by now.
Yeah, you're gonna see a Barrel Alert, and it's gonna be 100% hit probability, unlucky out.
Oh man. Yeah, I like those bets. I'll add in Cesar Hernandez. Always a decent cash game second baseman. Guy makes a ton of contact, walks a decent amount. Doesn't have a ton of pop, but I mean, could here against Bailey.
Yeah, for sure. And even Maikel Franco, who not very good against right-handed pitching, but he's been hitting the ball really well lately. Like, what is he? He's 7 for 15 with 2 homers and 11 RBIs and 4 runs scored over his last 4-game hitting streak.
Yeah. So definitely a good option there. Toronto, Baltimore, you got Aaron Sanchez taking on Andrew Cashner. Andrew Cashner is probably one of the bigger pitching trolls in the DFS world.
Him and like Bartolo Colon and Martin Perez probably hang out in the offseason and talk about how they're going to troll daily fantasy players.
Yeah, big time. That being said, like I like the lefties here against Cashner. I definitely you can use Donaldson again. I mean, I grand slam late in that game last night. But guys like Smoke and Granderson, I have some interest in. I'm not really on the righty value bats really in any sort of this lineup.
No, I'm not really either. It will be interesting to see if Kendrys Morales gets in the lineup. He left the game yesterday. I think it's like an Achilles or something like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But Justin Smoke is obviously a great option here. And Curtis Granderson, another guy that's hitting the ball pretty far recently. Average distance of 250 feet, about 90-mile-an-hour average exit velocity. If he leads off again, I think he's going to be one of the top cash game options across the industry just because he's still really, really cheap. And you mentioned targeting Cashner with lefties. That's a solid strategy, especially in this park. I mean, he's 41% fly ball rate, 322 WOBA allowed dating back to last season.
Yeah, and the reason I don't like the righties here, outside of the Donaldson, is just because Cashner does roll a ton of ground balls. The walk, he's not as wild against righties as he is against lefties. It's been a ticking time bomb for a long time, and the bomb has not gone off if you've been stacking against Cashner.
Yeah, it's going to happen one of these days. I don't know that it happens tonight, but like I said, with some of these one-offs, the Smokes and the Grandersons and even like the Solartes, if he gets in the lineup, are excellent targets.
Yep. Aaron Sanchez against Baltimore. I don't really like these Baltimore bats. I mean, you can still use them, but I don't know. I kind of have a little bit of interest in a deep GPP play for Aaron Sanchez here.
I do too. Obviously, hasn't been phenomenal in his first 2 outings. Obviously, the Yankees game, we talked about that one. He kind of got hit later on in the game. There was also an error that led to some of the struggles. Did strike out 7 White Sox, gave up 3 earned runs though. Against this Orioles team that is striking out a lot to start the season, he is at least a little bit interesting. He does have some concerning numbers if you're looking back to last season, just because he did have a really bad year last year. But I think he's tournament viable. There's a couple bats in this lineup that have hit him really, really well. But there's still a lot of strikeout upside here, so I don't mind him in tournaments. He's probably not someone you're looking at in cash games, though.
No, I mean, I kind of threw out last year just because of the injury situation to him. Looking at your prior years, his career numbers, 256 WOBA allowed to righties, decent ground ball rate. I mean, not a huge strikeout guy, but obviously the potential is there. But in his career, 60% ground ball rate against right-handers, and this looks to be somewhat heavily right-handed. I mean, yes, you're going to have probably Chris Davis and Alvarez in there, and I would assume Cisco might drop in the lineup who's left-handed, but Davis can't hit anything right now.
Yeah, I assume they'll put Davis. You'll get Alvarez in there. You'll get Santander and probably Chance Cisco, which make 4 lefties, but there's still going to be a decent amount of righties in that lineup. So it is a spot for him. Chris Davis has actually hit Sanchez extremely well over his career. He would be maybe a one-off home run hunt, maybe Jonathan Scope, who's hit Sanchez pretty well. But I'm not terribly concerned about some of these guys.
No, I'm not either. And kind of once again, Baltimore, if you want to use them as one-offs for their power bats, that's fine.
Yeah, I mentioned Davis. He's 8 for 22 with 4 homers against Sanchez. Scope 9 for 22 with a home run. Cisco would be another cheap value option to consider just because Sanchez does struggle against lefties.
Yeah. New York and Boston next game here. Luis Severino taking on Chris Sale. Over under of 3? This is not a game to go searching for bats, but You mentioned to me something. This is either a game that we see Stanton just double dong in.
Yeah, like this feels like the Stanton troll spot because everybody's been loading him up, waiting for him to erupt again, and he's done nothing but strikeouts. But like he's facing a lefty. I know Chris Sale is one of the best pitchers in the majors. Stanton has like video game numbers against lefties. Like it feels like he's either going to strike out 5 times again or he's going to double dong in this spot. One of those two things is probably going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't know because I think maybe people will take some shots, but probably not enough, just because that price it's only 4,400, and I think people kind of get a little bit intrigued. But for the most part, I mean, like you can take one-offs as far as the right-handers go, but I mean, definitely going to be GPP plays.
Yeah, I don't hate like a tournament stack of the Yankees in this spot because they are priced way down because they're facing Chris Sale. You can look at Stanton, Tyler Austin, Aaron Judge. Not sure if Sanchez is going to be in the lineup, but he'd be someone that you could look at. Just know like these guys are facing a dominant lefty and they're probably going to strike out a ton, but this is going to be one of the nights where you're going to get low ownership on these Yankee bats.
Yeah. And with that being said, like there is obviously some upside here, but there's obviously a huge downside against Sale. And I definitely don't mind getting some exposure to Sale just because these strikeout rates are rather high for the Yankees. And this is a spot obviously where we can see double-digit strikeouts out of Sale.
Yeah, he's one of the obviously one of the top options on the slate as far as pitchers go. I mean, he's just insane strikeout potential against, guys in this lineup that strike out a ton. I mean, Tyler Austin, 27%, Aaron Judge, 31%, Gary Sanchez, 23%. You're getting a ton of strikeouts in this lineup. Stanton, only 15% dating back to last season against lefties, but like the dude's like 17 strikeouts in his last 7 games. So there's still a lot of strikeout potential. There's also potential for some of these Yankees bats to explode. So it's risk versus reward. Like I think Sale's probably going to be a popular option. So in tournaments, again, if you're building a bunch of lineups, use Yankees. In cash games, I think you can still roll Sale out there because if he does struggle, like you're gonna be struggling with the rest of the field because he should be popular here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Red Sox side things, like I don't have a lot of interest against Severino. I think Severino is actually an interesting pivot play here tonight. I know a lot of people are like, your Red Sox don't really strike out a ton. But obviously, I mean, you're missing Bogarts here. Devers can strike out. Some of these back half guys can strike out a little bit here. Same with JD Martinez and Hanley now. I think Severino's an interesting GPP option. Like any other slate, like he could be viable in cash, but I think he's just more of an ownership pivot.
Yeah, he's a very interesting tournament option. Obviously, last season, 2-1, 3.33 ERA and 4 starts against Boston. He was really good at Fenway, posted a .64 ERA and 2 outings at Fenway. You mentioned no Xander Bogaerts. That's going to put someone in that lineup that's probably going to strike out a decent amount. These guys are decent contact hitters, and it is interesting to note, like Benintendi against Severino last season was putting the ball, like he was hitting the ball really hard. It just wasn't coming to fruition. A little concerning, but I do think there is some strikeout potential for Severino here in a spot where, especially at his price, you're gonna get single digit ownership on him. I think.
Yeah, I do too. Because unlike the Yankees, like I don't really have one-off interest in anyone on the Sox.
No, not really. Like Mookie Betts, maybe, just because he just makes so much contact and rarely strikes out. That'd be about it.
Yeah, I mean, outside that, like this is a little bit of a watered down lineup. It's weird when you take Bogarts and his hot bat out of it, how bad that back half looks.
Yeah, that lineup is just it's kind of gross. Like Brock Holt and Jackie Bradley and Christian Vasquez probably going to be your bottom 3 hitters.
Yeah, it's not fun. So expect a low-scoring game there, but there are a few options. Moving on here, I got the Angels and Rangers. Oh, sorry, Mets, Marlins. Next one here. Jacob deGrom take on Caleb Smith. I like deGrom here. I wasn't super thrilled with Thor last night. He kind of worked himself into a couple of bad innings, but I think deGrom has been solid to start the year. If you're not going Sale, I think you can pay up for deGrom here.
I think he's a safe cash game option. I question the upside in this spots. These Marlins bats are just kind of pesky and annoying, and they're kind of driving me crazy because like they'll just get mowed down by like Nick Pivetta, and then you'll get like Thor come in and just be like meh. But they are still striking out 26% of the time. There's not a whole lot of power in this lineup. I think he has limited, like I said, limited strikeout upside, but a fairly safe floor in the spots. So I do like him. I think though I probably would rather go Sale for a little bit cheaper, or even Strasburg for a little bit cheaper in cash games.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, it's just gonna be pesky. It's just these guys like Starlin Castro and Derek Dietrich, like they're just annoying hitters, and the rest of them, Cameron Maben and like Bohr's the only real power bat, but everyone else is just annoying.
And you have guys like Brian Anderson, who's just been like ridiculous. He's 9 of his last 10 games he's hit safely. It's just Derek Dietrich has hit it safely in 9 of his last 10 outings. Like they're pesky bats that just drive you crazy.
Yeah, but I don't have any interest in them.
I will say Justin Bohr, 6 for 12 with 1 homer against DeGrom, and that's about it.
Well, for playing BVP, go for it.
Hey, people love BVP, so I just got to throw it out there.
They do. Mets side things definitely interesting here. I like some of these right-handed bats. They obviously have a couple of big power bats that do handle lefties pretty well. Cespedes, I have some interest in here. Wilmer Flores is as well, who would always get the platoon start against lefties last year, has some pop. And I don't even hate like Ted Frazier, like Travis d'Arnaud here either.
The biggest issue that I have with Wilmer Flores is he's just like he'll get like 2 at-bats and then that's it.
Oh, but he's not Denny Valencia. No, yeah. I mean that's what sucks.
Yeah, like he does have a ton of power against lefties. That being said, I would prefer that he was in a different park if I was hunting that. Like I think if I'm going to stack them, I'm looking at Asdrubal Cabrera, who's been again just really really hot to start the season. Doesn't strike out very much against lefties. Has a little bit of pop, but he's just more of like an on base guy. Todd Frazier, 339 ISO against lefties dating back to last season. Travis d'Arnaud, 211 ISO dating back to last season. He's been hitting the ball really, really hard and really, really far so far this season. 94.2 miles per hour on his average exit velocity and average distance of 243 feet. Excellent catcher option today. And then you mentioned Cespedes. Numbers pretty much mimic d'Arnaud's as far as his average exit velocity and average distance, 294 ISO dating back to last season. So I do like the Cespedes, Frazier, d'Arnaud, and Asdrubal stack.
Yeah, I'm with you there. LA and Texas now. You got Martin Perez versus Tyler Skaggs. We'll start with the Angels side here against Perez. You mentioned Perez, one of the more annoying guys to stack against here. But there are definitely some bats that do handle lefties pretty well. 2 guys, in fact, with over 300 ISO going back to last year with Kozar and Upton.
What if I told you that the Angels were facing a pitcher that has generated 0 swinging strikes this season and has a 100% contact rate?
It would be Martin Perez.
It would be Martin Perez.
I like it. Like I like the Angels here. Like you said, they're tricky stacking against because Perez. Although Perez last season, I felt like was kind of an overrated ground ball pitcher. Like it wasn't as high as previous years.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I joked about this yesterday with Martin Perez, and I've joked about it. I joked about it last season too, and it was mostly 2016 that I believe this happened, where he had like just insane numbers, home away numbers. I'm pulling it up right now, but his home ERA in 2016, 3.24. He had a 3.14 WOBA. His away ERA, 5.78. He had a 3.33 WOBA. Something about like that home park for him is beneficial. I still think I'm stacking against him though. Like there's just so many good right-handed bats in that lineup. Upton, Kozart. I mean that Mike Trout guy. He's okay. Like I mean he's just a mediocre baseball player, but I mean he'll do. And then you have like Andrelton Simmons, who's like the best hitter on that team. who I think is an excellent one-off, even if you're not stacking the Angels.
Yeah, I do too. Like you mentioned, I usually like to take him against righties, but lefties is okay too. I'm stacking here. Like I think stacks have failed against Perez in the past, but it won't stop me here. I like the addition of Cozart and Upton into the stack. I like the Simmons call there. I don't hate Pujols. He homered last night. Should have had better numbers against lefties last year than he actually did. You'll probably get some cheaper guys back half, like Maldonado. I think Chris Young should probably slip into there. I don't have a ton of interest, but it probably starts with Simmons.
Yeah, Simmons obviously a great option down, probably batting sixth. I don't know which catcher is going to get in the lineup, but either one is fine. Like Rene Rivera against lefties last season struck out like 37% of the time, but he also had like a 250 ISO. Maldonado, almost 30% strikeout rate, didn't show off a ton of pop, but either one of those guys, if you're stacking the Angels, is excellent. Like I'm probably leaning Travis d'Arnaud over either one of those, and then some of these other catchers that we'll get to later. But as part of a stack, they're fine.
Yep. Texas here. Texas offense continues to be something that targets, especially against left-handers. I know you have some interest in Skaggs here. Really saw GPP arm tonight.
I love Skaggs. Obviously, I love picking on the Rangers. They're just not hitting the ball very well. And now you have like even Rougned Odor, who strikes out a ton, but is also a decent hitter. He's gonna hit the DL, which really, really hurts them. They also really struggle against cutters. Like there's only one hitter on their roster that's like above league average when it comes to hitting cutters, and that's Joey Gallo. And you're gonna get a lefty on lefty matchup for Gallo, so maybe they move him down the lineup. I think this is an excellent spot for Skaggs, and he's one of my top tournament like arms on the slate.
Yeah, I like him a ton here because I mean, really when I look at it, like I'm not intrigued with a lot of these Texas bats, and like there's just a ton of strikeout potential here. He's going to face a lot of lefties as well. I think maybe the only guy I'd have a one-off is probably Elvis Andrus, and that's about it.
It'd be like Andrews and maybe Beltre.
Yeah, Chirinos too maybe would be my other one on DK.
Yeah, I will say this, and this is obviously a very, very small sample size, but in the series so far for the Rangers, they've dropped each of their series openers, but they're 3-0 in the second game of their each series that they've been in. So if history continues, which it's not a very long history, but if it does, then Skaggs might end up with a loss here. So definitely tournament only.
I'm kind of dating back. Haven't they faced lefties in the second game?
Let me.
They faced Keuchel. They faced Keuchel on the Houston one.
Let's see. They faced would it have been Manaya in their other series?
Yeah, I think he pitched the second one because it was Graveman first, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm pulling up their schedule right now. Bear with me 1 second. See, so it was Keuchel, and then Graveman was the pitcher they faced second in the Oakland series, and then Stroman.
Okay.
So
all names we targeted.
Yes.
But yeah, Skaggs is definitely a cheap guy. Like I said, I think Andrus and Chirinos and like you said, Beltre are probably the three right-handed bats in that line that you can take shots on.
Yeah, for sure.
So Houston, Minnesota, Dallas Keuchel, Jake Odorizzi. You said something very scary to me before the show.
I know people are gonna want to target against Odorizzi, and that's fine. I mean, he's a reverse splits guy, gives up a ton of hard contact and fly balls to right-handed hitters. But as you've noted a couple times, this park plays very big this time of year, and these Astros are striking out a lot to start the season, like almost 25%. Actually, when I pulled it last night, it was 24.3%. Lance Lynn struck out 9 of them, so that probably raises a little bit more. I don't hate Odorizzi as a tournament option if you're wanting to target the whole Astros cold streak thing, and obviously it is kind of still cold in Minnesota, so that does help a little bit more. I think he's a fine tournament pitcher. Like nobody's going to use him. You're going to get him at like 1% ownership tonight.
You definitely will. That's for sure. I'm not necessarily targeting Houston bats. Like I'm just not really looking over Rizzi here. Like he's a cheap guy. You obviously can be able to fit in any bats that you want. As you mentioned, the weather definitely helps. This ballpark does play small to start the year and then really opens up as things heat up. So, like with that being said, like I'm okay with one. I think Carlos Correa is probably my most interesting one-off from this Houston side at shortstop, just because there is still so much power. But these guys are just so expensive. That's the other thing too.
Yeah, there's other spots I'd rather attack at those price ranges. But if you wanted to do like a one-off of like Springer or Altuve or Correa or Bregman or Gaddis, like feel free. Like again, I mentioned Jake Odorizzi, 40% hard contact, 45.5% fly ball rate to righties dating back to last season. So there is potential there. But also, like I said, I do think he's in play in tournaments.
Yep. Dallas Keuchel, I do have a little bit of interest here. Rocky start to the season so far, going up against the Twins team that do have some right-handed bats that you can be concerned about. But Keuchel here, as long as he gets the walks under control, which usually isn't a thing for him, but a couple walks in each start to start the year. But looking here, I mean, still this line, but it's not too scary, especially when you get kind of back past the front 4 or 5 here. Definitely going to be some strikeouts, even though you have guys like Sano and Dozier and Buxton who do hit lefties pretty well. Grossman as well. But I think there's potential in here for Keuchel, especially at that price tag. He's kind of in a range where I think people are going to be like, I'll just drop down to a Nola or Manaea or go cheaper, or I'm just kind of looking to pay up. So I think he's in an interesting kind of salary spot. And I think there is some upside here against this Twins team that do swing and miss quite a bit.
I think there is a little bit of potential there for some strikeouts and a good game. It's just he's not someone that I'm really looking at. Like he's struggled historically dating like last season. He really struggled away from home. And there's a decent amount of guys in this lineup that I think can get to him. Brian Dozier, Miguel Sano, just beating the hell out of the ball to start the season, like almost 98 mile per hour average exit velocity. That's just freaking insane. Like he's still striking out a ton, but he's also hitting the ball really, really hard. I don't know. There's guys I think I would rather target over Keuchel, but if you wanted to take a shot in tournaments, you could. He's definitely not someone that you're looking at in cash games, though.
No, definitely not a cash game guy. Like I said, building 10 lineups, like Keuchel's probably going to be in one. So.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Seattle, Kansas City. We had a no-hitter going for a while last night. And did you see that Yost didn't even know about it?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
No, because he's running his anti-porn campaign while games are going on.
Yeah, there you go.
You got Skoglund and Hernandez going here tonight. I definitely don't mind some bats here in this one. Felix Hernandez got absolutely lit up by the Giants last time out. Pitch roll in his first one. I wonder if he's going to be one of those weird home road guys like in the later half of his career.
He might be. That being said, like I don't want anything to do with him against Kansas City. Like they don't strike out. So like there's no reason to even look at Felix here. And on the other side, like I don't even want to touch Skoglund. Like I didn't believe in Junis yesterday, and that was a mistake, but I definitely don't believe in Skoglund here. And he's facing a Mariners team that doesn't really strike out that much. So neither one of these pitchers is on my radar. I'd rather target bats against them.
Yeah, me too. And it's for the Seattle side, like if the lineup that they're truly going to put out today is that, it kind of sucks. Like there's not a lot of power against lefties, but obviously Skoglund's a guy who, gives up a ton of hard contact. Does have a solid ground ball rate against lefties, but like I am a little worried about this Seattle lineup, kind of as a whole.
Yeah, I mean there's so many guys on the DL for this team. Like there's not a ton of power against lefties. I mean, Ryan Healy was probably their best lefty hitter, and he's just went on the DL. That leaves you with like Mitch Haniger as a 212 or 212 ISO against him dating back to last season. That'd be about it. But like I still think of these guys are going to put the ball in play a lot, and you're going to probably like BABIP him to death.
Yeah, and like I mean, Kyle Seager's had a decent ISO against lefties over the last few years. Skoglund's just been a heavy ground ball guy against them, but Yeah, like I want to find guys to like in the Seattle team, but I just really can't.
I still like even though it's even though it's gonna be lefty on lefty, I still like D Gordon. I like Gene Segura. I still like Cano and Haniger. I don't mind stacking these guys, even like Heredia and Taylor Motter down towards the bottom of that lineup. I think they're fine options. I don't think anyone's gonna use them tonight, so you'd get them at really low ownership. Um, but yeah, I like I said, I still think these guys are fine, even if you even though there's not a ton of pop against lefties.
Real side things you said you definitely don't want anything to do with Felix. I like the lefty bats here. I like going back with like a Duda or Moose here.
Yeah, I do too. I love John Jay here leading off. Obviously, just decent on base potential, and then you're going to get guys like Whit Merrifield and Moustakas and Duda behind them that are have a good chance at a home run. I mean, Duda dating back to last season, 303 ISO against right-handed pitching. Moustakas 263, solid numbers. Even with Merrifield, 159, not a ton of power, but also doesn't strike out. He's hitting the ball pretty well recently. He's reached safely in 18 straight home games. So that's pretty solid for you there. And even like Drew Butera and Alex Gordon towards the bottom of that lineup, guys you can look at.
Yeah, and Merrifield's a guy, I mean, he barely got his first stolen base last game, but he's a guy who can run a little bit too.
Yeah, he can. So there's potential there too.
Milwaukee St. Louis next year. You got Brent Suter taking on Carlos Martinez. This game's weird. I feel like every Brewers game has been so weird.
Yeah, and it's gonna get really weird if Kane and Jose Martinez are out of the lineup. So it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Suter 100% not in play. Just don't even go there. Carlos Martinez though looked really good against this Brewers team last time out when he struck out 10. And with no Yelich and potentially no Kane in that lineup, there's potentially more strikeouts available to him. He's probably my top pitching like arm in that like 10 that 9 to 10K range on DraftKings. And he's probably like the guy that I'm looking at 8,700 on FanDuel. That's like my SP1.
Yeah, like there's a ton of upside. You mentioned like Yelich is already out on the DL. Kane left the game last night. That's going to leave. I mean, the rest of the bats already strike out quite a bit. Like you're looking at the guys who could possibly be filling in, and plenty of strikeouts for Martinez to be had, especially pitching in St. Louis. He's pitched well there. I like the upside for Martinez, and I agree that in that mid range, he's pretty much your best bet.
Yeah, and like I don't even mind using him in cash games. Like if you want to fade the DeGrom, Sales, Strasburg price range, like you're getting a pretty steep discount on Carlos Martinez compared to those guys.
Yep, and like Kane and Garcia are the only guys who had under a 20% strikeout rate, and Kane might be out.
Yeah.
So upside there. Milwaukee bats, like is it the same thing like Thames and Shaw?
That'd be about it. Yeah.
Yeah. St. Louis side things you mentioned, like this would have been such a great spot to use Martinez against a lefty, but if he's out tonight, it kind of sucks. But guys like Pham, Ozuna, Paul DeJong, Yadier Molina, I definitely have some interest in the right-handed bats here for St. Louis.
I absolutely love stacking St. Louis tonight. Yadier Molina is probably my top catcher option of the day. Sorry, Chris Iannetta. Like I'm still going Yadi over him. Yachty just mashes sliders. Like he is an excellent slider hitter, and that's something that Suter is throwing a ton. Tommy Pham, Paul DeJong, excellent options. These guys hit left-handed pitching really, really well. Jose Martinez, if he gets in the lineup, should be like the highest owned hitter on the slate. 419 ISO dating back to last season against lefties. Paul DeJong, as I mentioned, 337. Tommy Pham, 243. Yachty, 298. All these guys, excellent options. Depending on who gets in the lineup, like Yairo Munoz is projected in the lineup for tonight, even with Jose Martinez projected. I don't know too much about him, but he'd be a value option. And if someone like Harrison Bader got in the lineup, you could even look at him. He could be like an excellent value option if he gets in the lineup if Martinez sits.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, all these, I mean, you were talking value options like Fowler's 3,100 on DK, Pham 3,400, Ozuna's 3,700, Martinez 34, Million 36. Like Paul DeJong's the most expensive guy.
Yeah, and it's insane. These guys are just way too cheap.
Yeah, and they're a great stack to pair with like a high-end option or a great stack if you still want to work in cores. Like you can get some guys there, especially if you still want to fit like Arenado in there or something.
Yeah, for sure.
So good spot there for the Cards. Let's move on to this cores game. San Diego and Colorado. Finally saw it break out a little bit last night, although it was superstar Clayton Richard that did the damage for San Diego.
For the most part, yeah, it was. I think it was him and was it Perella that also, and then it was like Desmond and Cargo that did the damage for Colorado last night. So not the names that were the most highest owned. I think even Osawahe hit a home run. Not the names people were really targeting, but obviously Coors, excellent spot again tonight. You get to I don't want to say terrible lefties on the mound, but like Tyler Anderson, not like an ace arm, and Lucchesi's just really young, nothing really to go off of as far as what he's done so far in the majors because it's only been 9.2 innings. Yeah, Coors is going to be popular, of course, and you can roll it out if you want to, and you can fade it in tournaments if you want to. But there's some interesting bats to talk about here.
Yeah, definitely are. Especially, two lefties on the hill. You mentioned Lucchesi. Like, he pitched well against Colorado last time out. Having a little data, I'm curious to see if they kind of hit him better this time around, especially in cores. It's, same thing again here. Like, you're going to be looking at the right-handed bats like LeMahieu, Arenado, Story. Iannetta is going to crack the lineup again. We did see Pavlica get in there last night. Limited sample, but over, 275 ISO against lefties last season dating back. Right-handed bats, like for both sides here.
I even like the lefties because in a small sample, of course, it's only 9.2 innings. Lucchesi, 37.5% hard contact, 388 WOBA allowed to lefties. He's actually been really good against the righties, even though he's giving up like a 47% fly ball rate, only a 227 WOBA, 33% hard contact, but 47% fly ball is not going to fly in Coors. So you can roll the righties. I wouldn't rule out someone like Blackman as an excellent option too.
No, definitely not. San Diego side, looking at Anderson, I definitely don't mind some of these bats here. I really wish Will Myers was healthy.
So do I. And if I get Coors exposure, it's going to be the San Diego side over the Colorado side because I think the Colorado side is going to be extremely chalky and you're going to get lower ownership on the San Diego side. And I don't mind stacking some of these guys. Obviously, Christian Villanueva, very small sample size, only 20 plate appearances, 30% strikeout rates, 600 ISO against left-handed pitching. I think he had that 3 home run game. Was it 2 or 3? I think it was 2 home run game.
3. He had 3.
Yeah, earlier in the season, I think against a lefty.
Yep.
So he should be in the lineup. He'd be an excellent option. Hunter Renfroe, 363 ISO dating back to last season against lefties. Jose Perella, Manuel Margot. I think those are the guys you're definitely looking at, and even someone like Austin Hedges, you can get exposure to. But I love Villanueva. I love Renfroe. I even like Renfroe as like a one-off.
Yeah, I do too. You mentioned Perella, Margot, like all solid right-handed bat options. Definitely don't mind Hedges. Ton of pop for a catcher there. Does strike out a ton, but that's fine. He's cheap. Yeah, I definitely like these bats here. They're all underpriced, like they're San Diego, and they're not playing at Coors, so you can stack them with a pretty strong pitching and create yourself some really, really good upside.
For sure, and I continue to like Freddie Galvis as just a safe cash game option with like some potential. I mean, he's double-digit fantasy points on DraftKings in 3, like the last 10 games. So, and he hasn't actually recorded a game with no fantasy points, so he's just a safe option.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Oakland, LA. We got 2 lefties again here. You got Ryu taking on Minaya. You and I both have some interest here in Minaya. The Dodgers team hasn't looked great, especially against left-handers to start the year. I know they got some right-handed bats in there that will pop into the lineup, but there's a lot of strikeouts here. Manaea's looked pretty good to start the year.
Yeah, velocity been just a little bit of an issue for Manaea, and he wasn't able to generate a lot of swing strikes against the Rangers, which was a little bit concerning. But Dodgers this season, 25% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. Bellinelli is like the only guy in that lineup that hits sliders very well, and that's something that Manaea relies on heavily. Kind of has that weird sidearm delivery, which has kind of baffled some of these Dodgers hitters at times. I love Manaea here. I think he has a ton of upside, and I feel like he's pretty safe in this spot too.
Yeah, I do too. Like I'm looking through this lineup here. Like Manaea is obviously very solid against left-handed bats. Right-handers, it's good to see that his control's been a little bit better to start the year. That was something I was a little bit concerned with last season, but I like him here a lot. Like you said, like he feels like a safe option, but there's like a tiny bit of me here still that's like, oh shit, what if Manaea goes out there and does one of his classic, like gives up 5 earned again?
Yeah, unfortunately that could happen, but this Dodgers team is just so bad without Turner. Like your best hitter against lefties is Kike Hernandez and like Austin Barnes maybe. Because that's a really small sample for Barnes, but there's just not a lot of guys that I'm terribly worried about. Like you're going to get the platoon advantage on Seager and Bellinger, who both do hit lefties fairly well, but they've been really slow to start the season. I don't know. There's just not a lot of bats in this lineup that scare me. And Vegas is pretty high on the Dodgers. They have them at 4.5 runs. I think Vegas is way, way off on this one.
I do too, and I feel like that's been the case a couple times already this year. Vegas has teams just kind of overshadowed, and especially in these late West Coast games, we've seen some high totals, which is usually pretty surprising because these are the lower scoring games. But if I'm taking a Dodger bat here, I guess I'm not. I don't like anyone here. If
I'm taking a Dodger bat, it's going to be like Kike. But I don't even.
He's 4,200.
Yeah, it's not the same situation where it was last year, where he was like minimum salary every time he faced a lefty. So
and shortstop eligible.
Yeah, now he's like second base and outfield on DraftKings. I think he's second base on FanDuel. So not terribly intrigued. FanDuel is still cheap, 2,500, so you can roll him out there.
Yeah, I think if I'm picking bats, it's probably going to be from the Oakland side here. I don't mind some of these righties at their prices; they're all pretty cheap. Rye's a guy I'm not a huge fan of. You got some bats in here that do hit lefties pretty well. I think Semien at his price is an interesting one. Chad Pinder should pop into the lineup. He's another one. And obviously you have the bigger bats like Chris Davis, and Matt Chapman's on fire to start the year. He's below 4K against the lefty here. I don't mind me some Chapman.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, I do have interest a little bit in this A's. I'm so tired of stacking A's and them just completely sucking, though. So, like, I'm probably not going to stack them, but I don't mind hunting some of these value options, like as far as like, trying to get some home runs. Matt Chapman, you mentioned, is solid. Jake Smolinski, career lefty masher, so I don't mind even him as like a value one-off like home run bat.
Just so it's clear, we do play other lineups. We don't just only stack A's and then that's it. Like just to be clear.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I make one lineup a night and it's always an A stack.
It's always an A stack, so I'm gonna win like one time out of the entire season.
But yeah, definitely A's side well in play. Last game of the night here, Patrick Corbin taking on Tyler Beede in AT&T Park. Corbin's looked pretty good to start the year here.
Yeah, he has. He's had a ton of strikeout potential. And I was a little bit shocked. Like, the Giants yesterday were just completely lost at the plate. Like, Godley's changeup, or no, his curveball. Sorry, his curveball was just. It had him baffled. Like, they couldn't hit a single thing. I don't know if I expect the same thing here. The Giants do strike out 22% of the time against lefties this season. They swing at sliders a lot, and that's something that Corbin relies on. There is a decent amount of swing and miss potential in this lineup, so I do like him in tournaments. He's the guy I think at that price tag. Like, I would rather go Corbin over Keuchel. I think the upside is a little bit higher. it's a decent spot for him, so I don't mind rolling him out.
I mean, 20 strikeouts in the first 2 games. He's been under 100 pitches and has pitched pretty efficiently. Um, I think there's a good spot at a win here too, even though Vegas basically has this one as a pick 'em.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with Vegas doesn't really know what to expect out of Tyler Beatty, or it could have been. I don't know if the line has moved since Cueto was pushed back. Yeah, it actually has. So now Arizona, I guess it's basically a pick 'em now. Giants were favored when it opened, so it's moving in favor of Corbin here.
I mean, Giants bats, like, I'll take a one off of McCutchen at his price. That's kind of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Like, it would be like a one off of McCutchen if I'm really, really trying to get exposure here. Maybe Posey, who's just continues to be just a solid bat. Like, he's not like hitting the cover off the ball or anything like that, or putting up any massive performances, but he's also just not giving you 0 points.
No. Diamondbacks, I think, like you said, I mean, Tyler B, we don't have a ton of info on him. Former first rounder. His minor league stuff looks to be more of a ground ball guy. Doesn't miss a ton of stuff. It looks walks is kind of an issue for him, so that's kind of concerning. I don't mind some of these Diamondbacks bats. I think, like, Kendall Marte, shortstop for cheap, is interesting. David Peralta's a little too expensive, but like I think Goldie and Pollock are interesting one-offs here too.
Yeah, Beatty's a guy, you mentioned ground ball pitcher. He's a sinker baller, really inconsistent with his curveball and his changeup. Like, he loses control of those really, like, quite frequently, which leads to like the walk issue. So if you want to get exposure here, you can. Obviously I was really high on him yesterday. Paul Goldschmidt, decent option. I mean, he's a good hitter. Like, he's pretty good at baseball.
But he crushed sinkers too.
Yeah, so like he's a guy that you can get some one-off exposure to. I don't mind Alex Avila, Peralta, some of these other guys. Chris Owings hitting like 400 to start the season. He's been consistent, so I don't mind him as a stack, or even like some Goldschmidt one-offs.
You might see Deno Descalso pop in the lineup, and he's only 2,900 on DK.
Yeah, he'd be a solid value option.
Yeah. So, home run calls tonight. What'd you get? You had one yesterday, right?
Yeah, Hoskins.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you snuck him away from me. Go ahead. Pick 2 tonight.
Paul DeYoung.
Ooh, I like it.
And Christian Villanueva.
Ooh. I'm gonna go Yoenis Cespedes, and I'll go Chad Pinder.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's it for us. You can go to DaveFantasyCafe.com. Check out our tools and content, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.